The Eagles just made a couple of sneaky moves in free agency. Howie Roseman is finally awake and active, but some of the fan base is still left confused at what the goal actually is right now. And I think what we're seeing is a bigger strategy playing out, a bigger message. So we will talk about what that philosophy is and whether or not it is the right one. We'll get into it all, but welcome into A to Z Philly. I'm RB. Do me a favor, like this video. Go down below, subscribe to the channel. You can check me out on all my socials as well at RB Philly Take. I cover the Birds, and the Eagles are finally getting active, ladies and gentlemen. Boom. Just as of last night, Jeff McClain, breaking news, Eagles signing former Packers running back AJ Dillon. NFL source confirmed he missed last season with a neck injury, but the 26-year-old rushed for nearly 2,500 yards in his first 4 years. The 247-pound Dillon will help backup starter Saquon Barkley. As the Eagles look to monitor his workload, Will Shipley will be in the mix, and former backup Kenny Gainwell has agreed to terms with the Steelers. Shout out Kenny G. Definitely will miss that guy. AJ Dillon was a very good receiver out of the backfield, says Jeff McClain, averaging nearly 9 yards per catch in 4 years in Green Bay. He has apparently been cleared to return to playing by next specialist. The contract is for 1 season. So I would assume that this is less money than what Kenny G got from the Steelers. I think it was like $7 or $9 million. But ladies and gentlemen, in terms of where we're at, do I like signing a guy coming off a neck injury? Not really, right? It's, not optimal, but I would assume this is a very cheap deal, probably like a prove it type of deal. And you can bring in a big body. I mean, hey, if they ban the tush push, the brotherly shove now, man, Eagles might be pissed off. I don't think they're banning it, but if they don't, boy, the Eagles may have just gotten another weapon to help them with that. AJ Dillon, like I said, 247 pounds. And now they're calling the Eagles running back room the biggest quads in the league. Saquon Barkley, they're calling him Saquads, and AJ Dillon is Quadzilla. So, hey, welcome to the squad. Eagles get a running back in AJ Dillon. If we look at his first 4 seasons, matter of fact, I mean, numbers aren't that bad. Aaron Jones was always the guy, but AJ Dillon was also a nice complimentary back, got a lot of touches. He had 7 touchdowns in 2022 with 770 yards. He had 5 touchdowns with 800 yards in 2021. That's just rushing. And he had 2 receiving touchdowns in 2021. So, like I said, guy who can catch out of the backfield, big body, don't know what he has left, but 26-year-old prove-it deal. And after sitting out for an entire season, hopefully his neck's good to go, and the Eagles get another weapon in the backfield. But I still think they're going to trust in Will Shipley, and that kind of speaks to where this team is at moving forward. We'll get to that in a little bit. Also, the Philadelphia Eagles signed Ben Van Sumeren, bring him back on a 1-year deal. Britton Covey, however, was not tendered by the Eagles. I honestly like him returning punts and kicks over Cooper DeJean, so I would not mind seeing Britton Covey back. Just a few minutes ago, the Eagles go out and they make another move, and to me, this is the bigger one than AJ Dillon, because we know who the Eagles have in that running back room. The Eagles, according to Adam Schefter, have agreed to a 1-year deal with former Chiefs free agent linebacker Joshua Uche, who will now try to help replace Josh Sweat and Brandon Graham. Okay, Joshua Uche of the Kansas City Chiefs, formerly of the New England Patriots. Who is Joshua Uche? Jeff McClain puts it here. Josh Uche spent 4 seasons plus with the Patriots and notched 20.5 sacks over that span, with a season best 11.5 in 2022. So 2022 was really this guy's breakout year. The Michigan product was traded to Kansas City back in October for a 6th-round pick. He played in 6 regular season games with the Chiefs and had minimal impact. And I'll even add on, apparently he was benched. He was benched pretty early by Steve Spagnuolo. Super Bowl defense, Super Bowl team. So not what you really want to hear, but Eagles hoping they can tap into the 26-year-old's potential in a new scheme. And as we saw, right, even though the Patriots were a bad team, he had a lot of good production on that squad back in 2022. So, this guy has something there, right? He has some type of attributes there. Maybe they just need to be unlocked. And, hey, we said the same thing about other players on this team last year. And Vic Fangio was able to unlock that, even with a guy like Zach Baun, right? So you bring in a guy like Josh Uche, and, hey, maybe Vic Fangio can put him in the bin of toys and play around a little bit, see what, he can find about this guy, maybe put him in a different position and go from there. Joshua Uche since 2022 has a 16.7% pressure rate, 6th among edge defenders. He is your newest Eagle. And if we go look at Joshua Uche, like we said, best season in 2022, 11.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. And ever since then, man, the production really dropped off. So you hope this guy's not a one-year wonder, but you go out and sign this guy. We don't know the exact details yet. I would assume it's also a pretty cheap deal for Josh Uche. What are the Eagles doing, right? People are going to see this move. They see AJ Dillon. What are the Eagles doing? Here's my best guess at what they're doing. I think Howie Roseman is going back to 2017, 2018 when they won the Super Bowl. And he is saying, man, I got way too emotionally attached to these players, these vets. And now it almost feels, but correct me if I'm wrong, he's like going to the complete opposite end of the spectrum, the extreme, to not get attached to any players that are over the age of whatever. You know what I mean? Like, he goes and trades CJ Gardner-Johnson. He lets Slay go. Rodgers, like all these guys he's letting go. And while that's not most favorable in my opinion, like you now have lost, 5 defensive starters. And I mean, now you have to pretty much reshape half the defense. You still have really good playmakers there, a lot of young guys. It almost feels to me like what Howie Roseman is doing is trying to open up the next 2 to 3 years of the window and maybe take a little step back this year to do that, because he still thinks this defense and these young playmakers showed enough and are good enough to still go back to the Super Bowl and win this year. And Vic Fangio is good enough to coach these guys up and put them in the best positions. So he's willing to take a little step back talent-wise in order to maintain and be able to keep all these guys around for the next 2 to 3 years and kind of patch up some of the holes with these prove-it deals and these vets. You know what I mean? Do you agree with that? I think that is the mindset right now from Howie Roseman. I don't 100% agree with it, but I do like the fact that he's trying to learn from last time and not get too emotionally attached. Like I said, there are still deals. We'll talk about CJ in a second where I just think that was a bad deal. But at the end of the day, man, the Eagles are just trying to find some gems, and Howie Roseman is trying to make it work. I think he's earned the benefit of the doubt based on the work he's done, based on how many, Super Bowl caliber teams he's now built. But it is a little bit shocking, and I think this is how we're going to see it play out for the rest of the offseason. I think they'll go into the draft with a good amount of picks. They'll try to find some young gems, put them in, get them ready to play right away. And I think, once guys get cut in training camp or some guy wants to get traded or whatever, Howie might swoop in. But I think this is the theme of what we're going to see, because now we're in day 4 of free agency. And it's more the same. ESP says that the Eagles are probably now around $21 million in salary cap space based on the moves that have been made. We don't have all the official details yet. So what do they do now? Do they go out and do they get a couple more vets? Maybe not. It seems like they have a philosophy here and they're sticking to it and sticking to their guns. Now, according to Marino NFL here on Twitter, the Eagles are still keeping an eye on the Bengals situation with all-pro edge Trey Hendrickson. So, maybe he could end up getting traded to the Eagles. I still don't see that being likely, but you never know with Howie Roseman. Might be willing to take a swing. Cincinnati is rumored to be seeking a first-round pick for a potential trade. And I'll tell you what, that is not happening. No way that is happening, especially with the money that any team would have to pay this guy. Now, I want to talk about CJ Gardner-Johnson for a second because I dropped my reaction a couple days ago. I'm still very shocked, but CJ talked about the Eagles trade on his own live stream, and he says, quote, "It was no bad blood. The young guys just got to get paid down there. All I asked was for them to trade me somewhere I can play winning football. I woke, and we in Houston." The reason I don't really like this is because CJ Gardner-Johnson still had 2 years left on his deal. Obviously, he had an out after the second year, so pretty much 1 year at least, but he was still under contract. It's not like a guy was on your team right now that you had to re-sign, give him a new contract right now. You could have let him play out this next season. And I know, again, how he's trying to get ahead of it. He doesn't want to get attached and give off too much money. We have other situations going on right now with Dallas Goedert and Mekhi Becton, but CJ Gardner-Johnson was still the heart and soul of the back end of the secondary. You can make the case for Reed. You could talk about Quinyon Cooper. I love those guys, man. But CJ Gardner-Johnson brought a bigger swag to the field. Like, he was that guy. You saw the impact when he left in 23, when he came back. CJ Gardner-Johnson's a very good player. He had 6 interceptions, and he was a big reason why they won. So I still think that that was a mistake, but hopefully they're able to replace him. And I still think there's something going on deeper beneath the surface, even if, he doesn't want to admit it here, because apparently the Eagles were in on Justin Reed before he signed with the Saints. They were one of the finalists, and he signed for like $31 million, 25 guaranteed with the Saints. And he went from a Super Bowl contender to a team that's probably not going to do much, right? And the Eagles were trying to get Justin Reed on the same day they traded CJ. That tells me that it might have been a personality thing. Who knows? But there was another reason why they moved on from CJ Gardner-Johnson. And again, now they're trying to patch up some of the holes. You look at corner. Do they go with Keely Ringo? What do they do at edge? Do they bring in another guy? Maybe they just draft a bunch of them. I don't know. Elliot Shore Parks puts this here on Twitter. Another Eagles target at safety, Marcus Williams, released by the Baltimore Ravens. I don't know how old he is. It feels like he's been around for a while. He definitely is a veteran at this point. Had some really good years back in the day, but, Ravens go and decide to save some cap there. Eagles, ESP says they tried hard to sign Williams before he signed with the Baltimore Ravens. So maybe Marcus Williams could come in on a cheaper deal. Keep your eyes on him. And lastly, Mekhi Becton. Adam Schefter was on the Pat McAfee show, and he talked about Mekhi Becton and their compensatory picks. And he says, by the way, it's probably going to turn into more compensatory picks once they lose Mekhi Becton. So maybe Adam Schefter knows something. Maybe they're not bringing Becton back. I do think it's very curious that Becton has not been signed yet. I feel like he's pondering with where he wants to go. The Eagles probably offering him a lower amount, but he loves it here. He has that emotional connection with Jeff Stoutland with this team, and he really does enjoy playing football here. So I think that has to be what it is, because there's no way Becton has no market right now, and the Eagles want him back. I prefer Mekhi Becton over Tyler Steen, and I would love to have him back. So we'll see what happens. Give me your thoughts and your predictions down below. How do you feel about Eagles free agency so far? Appreciate everybody for tapping in. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you all on the next one.